And we're back at sketching and a boy's woven shirt here. We want to make sure that we've taken the pictures into Photoshop and shrunk them down to 5 inches high by 150 resolution so the file size isn't too big. Here are our call-out pictures where we're going to have the close-up of the sleeve placket and the cuff, the pocket here, and then the inside branding information. So we're going to go ahead and start with making sure that we have our accurate stitch information here. So when you look here at some of the strokes that you've done in your other classes that appear to say that they are a 0.75 stitch, this is a true 0.75 right here with the 2-1 dash. Here it is with cornered edges, and here it is with the rounded edges. If you like the rounded edges, you can choose these two pieces here, and I really don't care which of these you choose. It just is important that you start with a 0.75 and not these brushes that you did in another class. You can clearly see if you pull that up how faint it is, and it will not show. So these stitches are not allowed right here. We want to make sure that we're starting with the accurate ones. The new shirt has a 4-hole button, 2 sizes. I've already grouped it with a buttonhole here, and there's the bar tack all on the page ready. So we want to make sure that the shirt is laid out nice and flat. So we're going to start up here in the corner. Make sure that we get our sleeve hook there. Come down, and there is a slight little curl of a shirt tail here. I always like to make sure that my center fronts are where I end my shapes so that I can control and reuse them if I need to. So there's the front. Let's just go ahead and fill it in so we can see what we're doing here. And I'm going to save a piece of this over here because I'm going to go ahead and use the shape builder tool here for the first part of the sketch, which is this shoulder forward. So we can go here and shape divide. The first part of this that we see that we have on that yoke forward from the back yoke is a single needle lock stitch. We want to make sure that it's not a fill. It should not have this filled in there. It should just be a red line like that. So when we go to do the CAD aspect, we're not going to end up with white all over the place. So here's our armhole. We have a single needle on the armhole that's the same distance, 1/4 inch, from the edge as the shoulder seam above, and it's the placket and pretty much everything on the garment that is a single needle. And the next thing we have here is the side. We have a double needle, so let's grab our double needle brush here. And if we're saying that this is the 1/4 inch double needle, then this is going to be the same brush all over the garment so that it's consistent. The next thing we can do now is take this entire shape and group it and move it over to the other side. You can see that it's pretty much aligned here. The next step we are going to do is the collar stand. This is the collar stand back here. And we're going to join it to the front body here like this. Keep the same shape. Come a little bit further because the placket will join to the front edge of this collar stand. Collar stand is with an edge single needle. As mentioned, when you do the curved lines, it is a little bit harder, so you have to do some more manipulations with the anchors compared to when you just have squares that you're repeating. So we're going to go ahead and start moving the anchors around here to get our edge single needle. We start with this side because on a boy's shirt it opens with the other side. Get rid of that part that I don't need and adjust that final little part there. Go ahead and group that together and then mirror it over. Once we mirror it over, I should have done the placket first. I have to come back and add the placket. So center front placket on this piece, we are going to have the first button. So I'm going to copy the button that I have here. I want to click on the shape that I want it to be above, and then when I hit Control V, it puts it in the right spot that it needs to be layered on top of that collar stand aspect. And we do have a horizontal oriented button here, so let's move that to the center front. So I forgot the placket. I normally do that before I do the collar stand there. So I'm going to get this centered. There's my placket. Let's do it as a fill. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my 1/4 inch single needle that's on both sides. Move this there, and then that's about right there. Go and adjust this slightly. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move my collar stands back on top so that they're above and covering the collar stand here. So I can see that I need to make some adjustments here because my collar stand needs to be at the same exact position right here as the opening. So I'm going to make that slight adjustment, and then I have to adjust my stitch information so that it still appears like the same distance as this, the 1/4. I can see that this piece right here is coming over too much and peeking out here at the bottom, so I'm going to move it out of the way because I don't want it to show. Okay, so there's the center front. If I take out the fills here, I'll be able to see where to put the buttons. So I'm going to grab the button that I need again. Click on the placket that I want to put it above. Control V. This is a vertical oriented button already, so if I put it on my blue line here and then hit Alt to repeat it when I grab it to move it down to the next spot, and then I can just hit Command D more times so that it is coming down exactly in the same position. You see that I've slightly been above that one, so I can zoom in to see that it is centered by filling my placket back. You can see that it's pretty good. It gave us the exact distance from center button to center button, but it didn't put it exactly in the middle because my picture is just slightly off. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to want to add is the patch pocket on this side. So here's the patch pocket shape. You can see that there is a small point down here at the bottom. We can go ahead and fill that so you can see what we're doing. Come over here and make sure that I grab my same stitch that I'm using everywhere. Move it into place. Again, with the squared shapes, it's much easier to just copy and paste your stitch. We don't need that piece at the top, so I'm going to get rid of it. Not quite perfect here. Let's zoom in to get our stitch line closer to what we need. It's our edge. Then this stitch, we also have a hem stitch down here, pocket top, and then if you notice when you look closely, this comes around and does this. So this is sort of like a pocket stay that helps to maintain the pocket from falling apart at the top when you take things in and out all the time. And there's our patch pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and group this. Control G is the shortcut command for the group. And then we can go ahead and fill back our body shapes and see where we're at so far with the sketch. So the next thing that we're going to need is a collar up here. So let's go ahead and add our collar. You can take the fill out so that you can see everything. Add a little bit of curve to the outer edge so it looks more like a picture. Take a little bit of that one out. And then let's go ahead and get our 1/4 single needle stitch added in. And on this new collar, we do have this button down feature. So let's grab the smaller button. Let's make it a tad bigger so you can see it. Place it here. Now, as long as we just have the two sizes on the sketch, it's going to be accurate now. So here's the first part of the smaller button that comes on this collar. Let's group that together and mirror it over. So there's that. The next thing we're going to add is the back collar, which comes here. Just follow the same shape. we want to make sure we're coming down below that HPS reference line, because when we go to do our back neck drop information, we want to make sure that that's there. Let's smooth out this bottom a little bit nicer. And then we're going to go ahead and move this shape up and add a couple of anchors. You could do this a couple of ways. I seem to be easier doing it this way for me than adding the line and doing the Pathfinder version. I want to create that same curved shape that I have at the bottom here. Then I go ahead and add in my edge single needle stitch, which is, when you look at the collar stand, that's what's there. So from here, this is going to be hidden in the back anyway, so it's not so important that it's perfect and that the stitches are lined up. As long as it's hidden in the back, nobody's going to see it. Part of the reason when you're building shapes upon shape that it already ends up in the back anyway. So we move that to the back. Then the next thing that we're going to do is add our hemline stitch here. A little bit more than I needed. These are the pieces. Let's make sure that we grab on the stitch line. Put it down. It's 1 inch, or sorry, it's 1/4 inch hem, clean finish. We'll talk about that when we get to the construction information. Okay, so this pocket outline seems a little faint to me. Let's check the outline. It's supposed to be a 0.1 on all the outlines, 0.7 on the seams. Let's just double check this. What can happen here? Because we want 1 point on the outline and 0.75 on the sketch. Okay, so that's all been updated. Now the next thing we can do is add the sleeve. We can start with the straight sleeve. You can see there's a little bit of tuck in here because there is a pleat on the back side. I'm going to go straight here for where the muscle would be. And I'm going to just drop this shape in the background anyway, so it's not so important that it be an exact replica of that armhole. I need to put my double needle stitch there on the sleeve inseam. Make sure that I put that there. Kind of follows with the side seam. Drop this to the back. Go ahead and add my cuff. Let's rotate that so we can match that up. A little bit more of a rotation, and it's a little bit big. And here, oops. We can go ahead and add our single needle. It looks like our single needle here also has been distorted somehow, and I don't know what happened. So let's go ahead and make sure that that's back to the 0.75 single needle that we can see really clearly. We come back and fix this, and we go to add the final touches if we want. Okay, so for here, I have a single needle 1/4 inch away from the edge on the bottom of this cuff. And then on the top, I have a double needle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab on my double needle brush and just make sure that I put that a little bit closer. My stitches are going off of the edges there. So that might be on that side. Okay, so there's that cuff. Then we can go ahead and take the sleeve here and mirror it over to the other side. On this side, we're going to go ahead and cut the sleeve the way that it looks in the background here. We do not want a dashed line when we go to do this shape divide here. So we can grab this now and go to the Pathfinder and split it in half, put it back in the background. We can bring this double needle back up. Back, so I'm just going to move it this way. On these pieces here, I'm just going to go ahead and, I have to ungroup it because this is part of the shape divide its group together there. Let's go ahead and just turn this to the other side and bring it in. As long as it's not covering something that we need there, it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it so it looks a little bit more like my picture and bring it to the front. I'll drop this down so it's there more like my picture. I'm going to go ahead and move those out just a little bit because I know I have to have room for my sleeve placket here. So we can take that away so we can see it, what the sleeve placket is underneath there. We have a, looks like about 3.5 inches or so high. There is there's a corner to the top there. Let's go ahead and fill that. Let's add the single needle information. When we look at the sample, we can see that it's edge along one side. Oops. It's an edge stitch along one side, and then it stops at a certain point on this other side. So we can add that anchor point where approximately where it stops, and then come back in and finish the line. Let's move it up just a bit. And now on the sleeve placket, we want to make sure that we have, again, the smaller button. So let's go grab that smaller button that we already put on the collar here. That's the one. Click on the layer we want it to be above, hit Control V, and it's going to go right on top as we need it. We can go ahead and put it nice and centered. Go into the middle, let's group this, and then move it into the position that we need. Rotate it around so that it's in alignment with the cuff. And then we're going to adjust this cuff. So there it is. So on this cuff, you can go Control C and Control F to put it in the same exact spot. Put an anchor point here. And then now we need this cuff to have a mitered corner. This is what a mitered corner looks like. And if you look at your sample, you'll see it. Let's go ahead and put that in. Adjust the quarter single needle on the cuff to be here. And then we have it to finish this one here. You do not want to have your stitch closing the cuff like this. You want to make sure that your stitch ends here and that you can see that 1/4 inch area there. Then we want to go ahead and add our larger button, so let's grab it. Control C, click on the cuff I want to put it on top. Control V, make sure that the button hole is in the right orientation, which is horizontal on this aspect, and put it into place. I'm going to go ahead and join this whole thing together. And the placket's already joined. So go ahead and fill everything back so I can see what I'm doing here. And I can see that the last thing that I'm missing now on the cuff is this pleat that we have. On the pleat, I want to use this pointed thing so that it looks like a pleat there. So there we go. That is the front aspect. We're going to go ahead and do the back clean finished hem here. So take your full one that's not been cropped out and shape built, make it into the shape. We can go ahead and bring this up to about where we think the back neck drop's going to be, and we're going to need to lower this part so that we can show that clean finished hem. We can come down a couple of squares, and when we take it back here we can clearly see that there is a hem down showing that it'll work. I can see that I need to go up a little bit more on the back neck drop, and I need to come down just a little more here. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab this and make get my shape ready. So I'm just going to take 2, keep an extra copy below for my stitch that I'm going to need to put on there. And let's close that shape. This is the clean finished shape that I'm going to need. It should be a fill, it is. So let's go back here and eye drop on a stitch. And then go ahead and bring that into place right here where it's clean finished on the inside and forward. And we can bring this whole thing onto the back. Bring this into place on the sketch and make sure that it's already dropped in the background because I took it from that layer as we started. So here's the front complete. We can go ahead and make sure that everything's on there. It looks like it is. To make the back, it's pretty quick. We just come over here and we mirror this over to the back. Copy. We're going to go in here and just start to delete the things that we don't need. We don't need this placket or any of the buttons. If you grouped it, it would have been faster to go and start your deleting. Not a big deal though. So here's all the stuff that we don't need. We need our sleeves to be dropped to the back. Send it to the back so we can get those. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, so here's that armhole shape that we're going to need. Let's go ahead and click the other parts that we don't need. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need that. We need the stitch, but not the outer shape anymore. We want to make sure these are gone. We don't need these anymore. And then we need to drop this. Well, let's ungroup it. And drop this one to the back. This is actually going to need to be on the other side anyway, so I'm going to grab this whole thing, including the stitch, and the button and the dart, and copy it over here. This is really easy to do. I'm not sure why I'm struggling with this tonight. Okay, so this we want to go all the way into the back. Let's just move all this to the front. We're going to miss our stitches though. So these stitches didn't come. Okay, so we're going to move this to the front. There, we have what we need there. So this is going to end up over here now, because when you do the cuff down, all this goes to the back. This is not showing anymore. I'm going to put that in the back, get rid of the extra detail, because this is just the simple version once you flip it to the other side. And to make sure that that's covering the undersleeve, which it wasn't. So we want to double check that on the front side, make sure that it's covering that undersleeve, and that it's lined up here. Then we come over to this side, and this is now going to get the sleeve with the placket information coming down. So let's get rid of this and move this into place, making sure that it's on top. And we lost the tuck, so let's put the tuck back. Okay, and then we still need to get that armhole stitch back, so let's go ahead and grab it from the front. Not sure why it disappeared, but let's get it back in there. So there's our single needle around the armhole, and the last thing that we're going to need is this single needle for the back collar. Make sure that it's not filled. And there we have the boy's shirt. We're going to go ahead and just take one last look to make sure that we haven't forgotten anything. We've got all the stitching, we've got the button down collar, we have the back neck drop going beneath the HPS line, and we have all of our information on this side. So I want to go ahead and show you the what the call out sketches are going to look like for this shirt. You need to have the sleeve cuff full out with the placket and the sleeve binding on the inside showing. You need to have the collar full out like this with the button down buttonhole showing there. You need to have the pocket here. You may have another shirt. This is the shirt from the last quarter, and this is what's in the content. This is just an example of what you're going to need to supply this with your first sketch. So the next and the last thing that I want you to do to this page is I want you to go ahead and on these two sketches right here, I want you to take your artboards and crop them out like this. so that when you go to export these two sketches, we're going to get rid of the reference information. That was this right here. Oh, it looks like I sketched on the wrong layer, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that reference information. It should be on another layer to where you could just now have it part of your export when you go to, somehow it got combined here, sorry about that. So I'm going to take all of this off out of the way so that when I go to export these two references here, I'm going to go File, Export as PNG. Once the window pops up, make sure I'm going to use the artboards. I'm just going to use the first two here, 1 and 2. They're going to the downloads. And when the next window pops up, I want to make sure that it has the 300 resolution selected there. Once I hit OK, it's going to replace the ones that I was practicing with earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and open my Woven Shirt tech pack. If you get to this stage and you feel your sketches are at this level, you can go ahead and insert them by going into the Insert Picture from the picture file. It's going to show you where I had them in the downloads. They're right here. I can grab them both at the same time and insert them. You'll be able to see how clear all the stitch line information is because we've started with the 0.75 stroke, shrinking them slightly to get them to fit into the cell, and there you have it. That's it. Thank you.